ready to
Bomba! Welcome to Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for. Subscribe to Bomba Live on YouTube and anywhere you can download a podcast so you don't miss 1 minute of these insightful and entertaining conversations con Bomba. I am talking to you live from the top of Philadelphia in the iconic Pyramid Club along with my co-host, the Philly Boricua, Vanessa Maria Graver. How are you, Vanessa?
Hi, I'm doing well today. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
It is, and later on in the show, we're going to talk more about Latino Heritage Month. Vanessa is going to school us on sort of the beginnings of that month historically in our nation's history, and I'm going to break down one of my great Latino passions that we'll talk about that I definitely wanted to give a moment to celebrate. Vanessa, this is we're going to have a lot of fun later in the show. We're going to premiere our Wepa segment. I'm going to ask you some very critical questions. Some would say Puerto Rican litmus test questions. But we have to begin today's show with a heavy heart because there's some very serious issues taking place here in our city, our beautiful city of Philadelphia, that are not only something that's on the top of the minds of our community, but also have ramifications around the country.
Yeah, this was a heavy week. Estuvo muy pesado, as we say. But, as journalists, as communicators, it's our job to inform the public and be able to explain things and put them in context. So that's why we're here today. But before we dive into that news story, I did want to shout out SBX Productions for producing our show today here at the Pyramid Club.
Taylor's doing a fantastic job. He's definitely like holding my hand through all the technical things, with it's nice to actually be in a studio with like nice cameras and lighting and these amazing microphones. So thank you, Taylor, for always being schooling me on all the tech stuff. So Vanessa, as a journalist, you've been following very closely the Eddie Irizarry situation, in particular for our audience outside of Philadelphia, around the country, particularly within the Puerto Rican Latino diaspora. That's been this issue's gotten coverage in Puerto Rico quite a bit as well. So why don't let's begin this conversation catching people up on share with people details of the initial incident tragedy that took place that led to some of the news updates this week.
So the important thing to know is that a young Puerto Rican man in Philly, Eddie Irizarry, was unjustly killed by police. And this happened in July when he was driving around North Philadelphia. He's from Kensington and he had just arrived, 7 years he's been here from Puerto Rico, and he didn't really speak a lot of English. He was driving in his vehicle alone in North Philadelphia, and the police alleged that he was driving erratically. Although, Ray, if you've ever been driving in North Philly, I think everybody drives a little erratically.
If they're in a car, they're usually, some people in those mopeds and all kind of things, yeah.
Right, and typically there's not a lot of those types of like traffic violation stops from the police. So this is where the case starts to become fishy. Two police officers, Mark Dial and his partner, Michael Morris, observed him driving erratically and they started to follow him. Eddie then pulled onto Willer Street, driving the wrong way on a one-way street, but he did pull over and park his car. Immediately after he parked, the police, came barreling down the street, parked right up next to him, and got out of their car with guns drawn. Within 5 seconds, Eddie Irizarry was dead because Officer Mark Dial fired several shots immediately into the vehicle after he alleges seeing a knife or a gun next to Eddie Irizarry.
And for people that didn't see the video footage, and it's tough to take, but I encourage people that are interested in the case to see it for yourselves. There's a few different. Then now the body cam footage has been released as well, besides the home security system that really exposed the lies, which you can talk about, that the initial report revealed, is that he didn't open the door, he didn't roll down the window, and the discussion of him having a knife only came about after there was. Why don't you talk about what the police initially reported before the video footage came out?
Yeah, so I want to repeat a little bit of what you just said, which is Eddie Irizarry was in his car, it was parked, the windows were up. And so when the police came out, they claim they saw something, right? Like there's various iterations of the story, and then they started to fire immediately. The body cam footage does have audio, which you can hear one of them yelling knife. So they did see a knife, and a knife was found in the vehicle, Whether he was pointing at them, that is in dispute, and you can't really see that from the video. Um, After Eddie is shot several times by Mark Dial, he drags him out of the car, drags him in the street, and throws him in the back of his police cruiser, never rendering aid a single time. But he does take him to the hospital. While he's at the hospital, his partner, Michael Morris, stays behind at the scene while other officers arrive and supervisors. And on his body camera footage, he tells a complete lie, right? He fabricates an entire story around the situation where he claims that Eddie Irizarry exited the vehicle, lunged at them with a knife, went for their gun, and they feared for their lives. And that's why his partner shot at them. Now, I'm not even sure how he had time to concoct that story because it seems to happen immediately following the incident. This lie gets communicated to the press, to the family, to the public, and we're led to believe that Eddie Irizarry was committing a crime, and that's why that led to his death, when actually that was untrue. Shaka Johnson, the Eddie Irizarry's family attorney, was able to obtain the surveillance footage from two homes on the street where it clearly showed he never left the vehicle. And so that, evidence sparked off a wave of concern. Although residents from that street who were witnesses had said that he had never left the vehicle, as they had seen parts of what happened. Um, so then the body camera footage gets released where you see additional details. You see the story being told as a lie. Meanwhile, our former police commissioner, Danielle Outlaw, held a press conference telling the press and the public that she didn't really know where that story came from, and it was still under investigation, when in fact they did know that it originated from the officer on the scene immediately, and they had that body camera footage immediately as well. So for her to say that, about 2 weeks afterwards, it's completely disingenuous. And so this is where the controversy lies, right? If the police weren't doing anything wrong, why did Michael Morris fabricate that story?
Yeah.
Right? Again, like instantly. And so several things have happened. The district attorney, Larry Krasner, filed charges, murder charges, a whole list of charges, which I'll read them really quickly here: murder, voluntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, possession of an instrument of crime, simple assault, recklessly endangering another person, and official oppression. Um, Mark Dial initially was given bail, which is very rare when you have a murder case like that in this list of charges. And it was set at $500,000, which was posted instantly by the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the police union. And he was let go. The district attorney's office felt that was very unusual. So they went back to court to, talk about the statute where people who have been charged with murder are usually, retained without bail. So Mark Dial did go back to jail. So that was a first small victory. And then the preliminary hearing happened on Tuesday of this week. And both sides were able to present evidence. The DA's office presented evidence showing the body cam video and the two surveillance footage and other testimony that was given from that day. And the defense presented a testimony of Michael Morris. And that was the first time he's been named, because a lot of people have been calling for accountability for him for telling that lie. And he testified that the knife looked like a gun to them and that they feared for their lives.
Even though that it's someone says knife specifically on the body cam footage.
Yeah, they're disputing that too. And they're saying it's like inaudible. Of course, when you're recording, it's not an exact science or 100%. But
Sure.
again, watch the body cam video and see for yourself. And the judge in the case, Wendy Pugh, dismissed all of the charges. And she said that there wasn't enough evidence for it to go to trial, and that she believed the officers were justified in what they do, even though they fabricated a story, which is still a crime.
So this, from my perspective, and Vanessa's following it very closely as a journalist, from my perspective as an activist and someone that's, first of all, that's here for the Irizarry family, and lo siento, we're with you, and we are following your leads as it relates to the kind of activism and mobilization that we're doing in the community that Vanessa's a big part of. Is that, but for a layman, this just came out of total left field. And subsequently, and I believe you covered the subsequent peaceful protest that took place immediately after. I think it was later that day. And then, so can you talk about that and kind of the what's been going on in the city the last couple days?
Yes, I want to take it back a few weeks back because initially there was a rally and a march through North Philadelphia to
Hmm.
the 25th Police District Station to call for the DA to release the body camera footage and file charges. Not long after that, that happened. So I just want to talk about the role of community organizing in response
Absolutely.
to these things. Since then, there's been community meetings being held at St. Ambrose Church where members of different organizations and residents from the neighborhood and family members of Eddie Irizarry have been attending to continue discussing the case.
And that's where he was laid to rest as well.
That's correct. And shout out to Padre Jose Membe, who is
Absolutely.
a community leader there, is doing an amazing job. And after we knew that the preliminary hearing was come up, there was a rally in front of the courthouse, the Criminal Justice Center, for supporters of the family, again demanding justice. So a lot of people came to the courtroom and saw what happened, and were just in shock. So the community once again mobilized an emergency action at City Hall. And there was a rally with a bunch of different speakers from different organizations, a lot of solidarity from, Black and brown people. So
Yeah.
that was very nice to see people coming together.
And even within our own community, there's been a lot of solidarity.
Absolutely. I think for many of us, you have to put your ideology and politics aside
Yeah.
because this is very unjust. There was a march through Center City to the Criminal Justice Center where the family of Eddie Irizarry then took the mic and spoke out against the injustice that they witnessed in court that day. They called on the community to continue the pressure on the DA's office and to keep the story in the media, which we're doing. And, we want to support that way. So for folks who are viewing and listening and wondering, what can I do? Share the story. There's a lot of videos, there's a lot of information on social media. If you live in Philadelphia, you can call the DA's office.
That's right.
And tell them that you really want this case prosecuted to the fullest. I think that, we need to have conversations about this with each other, right? Judicial elections are really important. And as you know, and I'm an elections reporter and do freelance work for a couple other media outlets. And we cover judicial elections and some of the other row seats because these are the types of decisions that they can make. So Judge Wendy Pugh is up for reelection in 2024. And so, folks, if you've ever been to the ballot box and look at the list of judges in Pennsylvania and you're like, I don't know who these people are, I don't know what party they're from, you really have to do your research because you might find yourself in front of a judge who isn't so kind to you and your family in your pursuit of justice. And so you really want to check their record. And the DA goes back to court on October 25th. They've refiled charges, all of the same ones. We expect them to present new evidence. An appeal is pending to the current decision. And meanwhile, Mark Dial is a free man walking the streets of Philadelphia and being defended by the FOP.
Continue to follow Vanessa Maria Graber on social media at News Jaunt, right? And News
That's right.
Jaunt. And follow Bomba Live. A lot of people have been sharing some of the coverage that you've been sharing, as well as other people in the community and other media outlets. And continue to follow. Love Shouldn't Hurt is actually going to be doing a special episode this evening in collaboration with Bomba Live. So in Philadelphia, if you follow Love Shouldn't Hurt, look out for us doing another episode with some other collaborators to kind of get more community feedback about this conversation. This has obviously broken my heart in so many ways. When I was a kid in Philadelphia, there was a lot of issues with the police and racial tensions. And, when I was real small, the Frank Rizzo era. And, the fact that, we'll see ultimately, we hope jurors will make a decision about the criminality of this whole situation. But on some level, we'll never be able to get Eddie back. And the lack of, the falta de respeto of the humanity of this man and the Puerto Rican Latino community has been extreme. And so it's one of the reasons we do Bomba Live is to elevate our humanity and our voices, and we need to continue to support the Saudi family and the larger Puerto Rican Latino community here in solidarity with other disenfranchised communities. Vanessa, we're going to take a quick break, get our breath because this has been heavy for a segment. We're going to check out a best of Bomba Live moment that featured the Philly Salsera, one of our collaborators, Christina Vega, who had a very provocative comment about her salsa dancing culture. We come back, Vanessa. We're going to continue to celebrate Latino Heritage Month here on Bomba Live.
And people always call me bougie, right? Because we'll go to dance, and if someone taps my shoulder and asks me to dance, and I've watched them on the dance floor and they don't dance as well as I do, sorry, I always say no, right?
Wow.
And people are like, you're
Shame.
serious. And I'm so serious because I take it like I'm passionate. When the music starts, I feel it.
No,
It's a part of
I
my
understand.
body. So
feel
I
that.
don't want to dance with someone, and I know that they can't dance because I want to kill it on the dance floor, and you have to be able to too.
And then it's not going to be a good experience for either one of you anyway, because
It's
they're
not.
going to feel like they're falling short. It's going to be obvious you're on another level, and then you ain't dancing. You ain't enjoying the 4 minutes.
Welcome back to Bomba Live, the show that you've been waiting for. On today's Presente segment, we continue to celebrate Latino Heritage Month. And Ray, you wanted to start by shouting out Latino heritage in your great passion of sports?
Yeah, I do. We're going to get that in a second, and Vanessa is going to give us a breakdown of the origins of Hispanic Heritage Month. But Vanessa, I just want to get your opinion on this situation. So Christina, just in that clip, said that if she observes someone that isn't a very good dancer and they ask her to dance, she will not dance salsa with them. So what is your thought? This was a very controversial, we got into a lot of interesting conversations between salsa snobs on social media. What's your take on this situation? Will you give a guy a shot that can't move?
Absolutely. Listen, you can network with people while dancing. You know,
Okay.
you can
All right.
talk to them, find out who they are, what they're about. Not everything is a romantic connection. You can make a friend, you can make a business contact, and especially if they're dressed nice and if they're cute. Like,
There you go.
yes.
And you can teach them. There's ways you can work it.
I mean, or you could just dance badly together. And I'm not judging, right? I'm not the best salsa dancer. I definitely dance bachata, reggaeton, like merengue. But it's supposed to be fun. Like I just want to have fun on the dance floor. And if they look like they're going to be fun, even if they're dancing badly, they might tell a few
Cuties
jokes.
trump it all. That's basically the message here. She'll give him a shot. So very cool, Vanessa. So Vanessa, why don't you break down? You wanted to share with people the origins of Hispanic Heritage Month.
So yes, starting from September 15th all the way to October 15th, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, also Latino Heritage Month, in the United States. But it's not really a thing in other countries. So a lot of Latinos find themselves in the United States celebrating this, month of celebrations for the first time. And certainly here in Philadelphia and, New Jersey, there's all types of Hispanic heritage celebrations because, we love our culture and any excuse to party and celebrate. But for folks who don't know, and this is something that I learned too, was I was researching the origins. I was like, who came up with this? It was established by legislation from Representative George Brown Jr. of Los Angeles, and it was originally a Hispanic Heritage Week.
I'm old enough to remember when it was a week back in the days. In the Reagan era, it was only a week.
So this was in 1968, and it was signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson.
I remember that.
And in 1988.
See? I was 14.
Right, yeah, we are old enough.
I was 14. I remember. I ain't keeping it real.
Yes, I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
The commemorative week was expanded to a month by legislation sponsored by Representative Esteban Torres from California, and signed into law by President Ronald Reagan. So, I mean, not the biggest fan of Reagan, but that's one little thing that he did.
Republicans were much friendlier to Latinos back then. He passed immigration reform in '84, so he was a California guy.
A lot of people ask me, why is it in the middle of the month, right? Because, we have Indigenous Peoples Month. Yeah. We also have
API,
right, Black History Month, right? And it usually starts at the first of the month. But September 15th was chosen as a starting point because it's the anniversary of the Cry of Dolores, which marked the start of the Mexican War for Independence. And then, resulted in independence for Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Honduras, and Nicaragua and they became the Federal Republic of Central America. So that's your history lesson for the day.
Yeah, I'm glad you shouted out some of the countries, particularly our Central American friends that don't get as much recognition. We talked on our last episode, and I encourage people to check out the Founding Trends, the Presente segment that on last week's show with Dionelli Reyes, where we talked about the growing, particularly Central American community around the country. The El Salvadoran community has passed Cuban Americans as the third largest Latino group, and there's a lot of rich history. The Hondurans are having a big festival in the hood pretty soon. So there's the richness and diversity of our community. It's not just Mexicans and Puerto Ricans and Cubans anymore. So much respect to all of our friends. And during this time, maybe one day Vanessa will get one of those Independence Days, but that's another story for another time. I did want to shout out, there's a lot of things we celebrate during the month, and our culture and music and fashion and our food. But I did want to shout out it being this season, our sports heritage and how big a part of it is, that speaks to some other things we're going to talk about in a second in terms of the growing economic power of the Latino community. I don't know, without the iconic legacy of Roberto Clemente, the iconic legendary baseball player and humanitarian that died serving others in Central America with that earthquake in Nicaragua, is I don't know if Bomba would exist. And so kind of such a basis of our mission statement around being compassionate, celebrating our culture. In Major League Baseball, Latinos are a dominant force in the game. Ronald Acuna, an incredible Afro-Venezuelan player, just did 40 home runs and 70 stolen bases. No one's ever got close to that. And Latinos will be dominant forces in the upcoming playoffs, which hopefully my Phillies will put another banner up, Taylor, in the coming weeks. The boxing industry is centered on the Mexican and Latino boxing fan. Canelo Alvarez will be fighting one of the Charlo brothers this weekend. And the boxing calendar is based off basically Mexican holidays. So there's a big fight in September for Mexican Independence Day and Cinco de Mayo in May. And you really wouldn't have an industry without the Latino boxing fan base. Even in the NBA and NFL, from the Cat to, several NFL and NBA players, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. There's a growing influence, women, Latinas. Vanessa, the greatest women boxer of all time, is a Boricua woman, Amanda Serrano.
And her sister, Cindy Serrano. They're both legendary.
Kills it. The reigning Olympic 400-meter hurdler, Jasmine Camacho Quinn, Boricua from South Carolina. So, the top Puerto Rican sports national team in the world is the Puerto Rican women's softball team, which is the third-ranked softball team in the world. Alessia Ocasio, Florida Puerto Rican, who's the Shohei Ohtani of the team. So sports is a big part of our culture and history, and I wanted to shout out all of our sporting heritage. Vanessa, you're a big I think of you as kind of like a quintessential Philly sports fan. So I know that your fandom is a fun part of your life as well.
Yeah, well, definitely go Birds.
That's right. Well,
But we're headed towards a red October.
Yes, we are.
And I still remember like the 76ers with Allen Iverson, like when I was in high school. That was fire. That was such a big deal. And so I've been a Sixers fan, ever since. The Flyers, I love the Flyers. Like, good. I'm not a hockey fan. I support them though.
I'm a Flyer fan. I'm down with hockey.
I will celebrate if they win.
Soccer's kind of inching ahead of
Not
it.
a lot of Latinos in hockey.
There's a couple. Well, shout out to my man Victor Corsino, who's a friends with Joel Pelocal, our buddy from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. Victor is the coach. He's a Bristol Puerto Rican. He's the coach for the National Puerto Rican Hockey Youth Team. So the little guys. So that we have a Puerto Rican Latino hockey hotbed here in the Philadelphia area. So and the NFL reports there's 31 million Latino NFL fans. So y'all wonder why J-Lo and Shakira perform at Super Bowls. A lot of
Miami.
in Miami, and I don't think they could afford Bad Bunny this year, so that's why Usher got it. They're
gonna have to bleep them out anyway.
I wanted to, as we wrap up the Presente segment, I wanted to shout out a great friend to the show, Lucas Rivera, a wonderful artist and activist who actually is based out in LA with Ruby Pacheco Rivera, his wonderful wife, good friends. My Afro Puerto Rican State of Soul is his new book. Vanessa, this book is actually, I was blessed to go to the book signing at Taller Puerto Riqueño on Saturday, and this book actually corresponds to a new album. So there's a corresponding album. So my AfroRican State of Soul you can find also on Spotify. So there's music. There's a music compilation that complements this poetry and written word. So Lucas is an extremely talented guy who's actually going to be on the show in the coming weeks. Vanessa, I know there's some other political headlines. There's a Jersey Salsero that's talk about Salceros enthralled in controversy that you wanted to get my take on.
Well, Senator Bob Menendez is in trouble again for corruption. He was indicted on bribery charges. And it's a really big deal this time. In the past, he has had trouble with the law and was indicted before. He was tried, I believe he was tried twice and found not guilty. I think the first one was a mistrial. Don't quote me on that, but he obviously was not found guilty and never resigned and stayed in the Senate.
And won re-election.
Right. And he is up for re-election in 2024 right now. But if you didn't hear the news, Bob Menendez and his wife are accused of taking bribes of gold bars. This is what made these headlines so sensational. A luxury car and cash in exchange for having sway with the government of Egypt. And you might not know that Senator Bob Menendez is on the, foreign relations.
He's the chair of the foreign relations.
Right, exactly. It's a big deal.
Very powerful.
So for him to be taking bribes to wield his influence like that is very questionable. Apparently, he was found with $500,000 in cash money. And again, who some people don't even have $100 in their house right now, right? Because a lot of people just don't have cash. So imagine
it wasn't in like stuffed in blazers in his
it
bedroom.
was hidden in clothing and closets, as well as $100,000 in gold bars. And so, of course, he's senator from New Jersey. He's the only Latino senator we have. And
only four Democrats in the U.S. Senate. 4 Latino Democrats in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I mean, he's of Cuban descent, and he's been there a long time. He's a very high-ranking Democrat. Like
he runs the Foreign Relations Committee.
Right, he's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So this is his second indictment in 8 years, and in the other indictment, it was taking bribes for helping this doctor in Florida
with his Medicaid reimbursement.
Yeah, and also get like passports for his like model girlfriend.
Yeah, it was much. Even though the charges are serious, but it was much.
It was a lot lighter than this.
Yeah, I mean, if this is impacting our foreign policy, that takes it to another level. It's really sad, because and I'm saying this on a personal level. This isn't a reflection of my organization or any of my affiliations. Is that the senator's really been a champion for our community. In terms of just the day-to-day work in New Jersey, his leadership across a variety of Latino issues, whether it's immigration, really been a champion for immigrant communities, whether it's, long immigrants undocumented that have been here for a long time or recently arrived. He's always been at the forefront of finding compassionate and reasonable solutions to these issues. I was actually on a press conference with him the day before the indictment, Vanessa, on immigration issues. He's essentially acted as our de facto Puerto Rican senator in the Senate over the years. He's always been good around issues related to the island and trying to find federal equitable aid for the island as a colony of the United States. He was good with the political prisoner stuff. He supported the more progressive status resolution bill this last Congress with Congressman Velasquez and Ocasio-Cortez. So Bob's kept it real. Bob's always been a good guy on a personal level. I'm not close to him, but always him and his family were cool. And so it's really disappointing. And it's a big, him not being in the Senate likely is going to be a big loss to the Latino community.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's facing bribery, fraud, and extortion charges, which right is pretty serious. And the reality is, I mean, of course, as someone who covers, local, state, and national government issues, I'm not surprised at all. There's just a lot of dysfunction and crooked behavior going on, especially in New Jersey. New Jersey has a long history.
Yeah, but you would think after the first time you got jammed up, you'd be a little more careful. It's just disappointing.
It emboldens people when they get away with stuff. Ask Trump, right?
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
like,
I guess
this
it
guy's
could go
facing
the other way.
four
It
indictments.
could go the other way. Yeah.
And it is a shame. I've worked with Bob Menendez's staff, met with them because they were interested in funding local journalism and building infrastructure for communications
Yeah.
and digital rights, and wanted to know more about how this information affects the Latino community. And they were the only people that have really met with us on that issue.
Yeah. No.
And so we were, glad to meet with them and brief them. And so when we lose representation, right, we don't really have a lot of representation.
Very little, yeah. And even if
at that level,
even if it ends up being another decent Democrat, it's not going to be a Latino, and it's not going to be someone that has that connection with our community.
it's true. But Andy Kim is a formidable challenger.
Andy would be a good candidate. Andy
Yeah,
would be a
well,
good
he
candidate.
has announced
Yeah.
his intent to run for the seat in 2024,
Yeah.
and he is in Congress right now.
Andy's a good guy.
He represents parts of Central and South Jersey.
Of the people that I think he's the only one that's endorsed. He's the only one that's announced formally, right?
Oh,
We
he
heard-
jumped right on
yeah,
it,
but
right?
of the people that I've heard will be running, again, is my personal. He would be my, he'd be someone I would definitely.
He's great. He's great. Again, right? Like, we have so few Puerto Ricans, we have so few Latinos.
Yeah.
It's tough, and New Jersey is a very diverse state, and it deserves a diverse candidate to represent them.
Yeah. Senator Booker, who really stood by him very closely during the first indictments a few years back, has called on him to resign in a very, as gently as he could with the statement. I think that's generally where a lot of our folks are at. It'll be interesting. We do in the coming months should have some New Jersey leaders because this issue is not going to go away. Bob's not going to resign, at least in the short term. And so we'll see how it plays out. But it's certainly a loss. And at the end of the day, leadership really matters. And, we have to hold ourselves personally, and starting with you and me, right, Vanessa? We have to hold ourselves as leaders and advocates to a high standard. And we'll see what happens in the legal process. But obviously, Bob, there's he definitely fell short, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah, again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, although there seems to be a pattern of behavior here. So we'll have to watch closely as the trial unfolds and see what evidence they bring forward. But this is why it's important to vote and to know who your candidates are.
That's right.
And
Because one way or another, it'll be an election next year.
right, exactly. It's a very important election, and whoever becomes senator will be in a very powerful position. And just look at all of the impact Fetterman is, just even with his dress code.
Yeah, he's changing the dress code in the Senate, that guy. He's got the stash going. Vanessa, in our Found Translation segment, he also wanted to ask me a question about this new study that just came out, fresh off the presses.
Yes, of course, we love studies and reports about Latinos and our power and our growth. And so I wanted to ask you about the Latino Donor Collaborative released their 2023 official LDC U.S. Latino GDP report. The report reveals the U.S. Latino gross domestic product is $3.2 trillion and that our purchasing power is $3.4 trillion. This growth is coming from our labor force participation, education attainment, which women are leading, by the way, Latino
No
women,
question about it.
and youthful population. We have I've said this before on other shows, we have the largest group of young people, a growing population. The report is very comprehensive, but those are some of the highlights. What strikes you most about this report?
There's a couple of statistics I wanted to re-elevate and repeat from Vanessa's introduction. First of all, the U.S. Latino community by itself is the 5th largest economy in the world. And so it's, we had, and we're not going to have time to get into it too much, but you have on one hand, the Republican presidential debate that took place last night, where, half of the argument of discussion is demonizing Latinos. Your problem is the proverbial Mexican immigrant that's bringing all this fentanyl, is killing your kid. And just a lot of lack of respect. I felt terrible for the journalist Elia Calderon that had to be in that environment yesterday. And, as a trooper, did a great job as a journalist, but talk about a hostile atmosphere. And then so you have this this political environment where, a relatively small minority of our society is very, skeptical, resistant to the Latino community. And then we have the reality of our economy, which is you can't function without us. And if you're, I don't care if you're selling furniture, homes, hair products, if the Latino market is not center on your strategy for the foreseeable future, you're not going to be able to thrive in this country. And so a strong Latino community, a healthy Latino community is good for everybody. And there's a good chance there's a good chance you're going to end up marrying a Latino if you're not. So in the near future. So the other thing in terms of to reiterate the age piece, Vanessa, you mentioned the largest age group in our country is between 60 and 64. The largest Latino age group is between 10 and 14. So again, from XPS Productions on down, whether you're creating content, whether you're marketing, I think it's like 2/3 of the homes that have to be bought in the next 30 years have to be Latinos for us to keep up. So, we are a powerful economic engine. And I mean, we are this country as much as anybody. So we have to act like it.
Yeah, and I want to also note that majority of these people, Latinos, have been here for generations,
Yeah.
right?
80% of our community
It's not due to like
citizens.
new immigration or
Yeah.
anything. This is, generations of people being here, having kids, expanding their family, planting roots down here in the United States. And that's what's resulted in this growth. Like, yes, there is immigration, but much larger number of people have been here for quite some time. And like you said, like, we are very much a part of this country and have
That's
been
right.
here and contribute a lot. I mean, look at what happened during the pandemic, and we saw the importance of essential workers, our farm workers, our grocery store people, our delivery people, your everyday working person. And it was a lot of Latinos working still during the pandemic.
On all economic levels, from the Latina nurse, who's middle class, upper middle
the
class,
teachers,
the teachers on down, essential workers across the board. There's a lot of reasons, lousy candidate, but part of the reason Ron DeSantis is sinking is that he passed this ridiculous anti-immigrant bill in Florida. So basically, there's no one around anymore to put up roofs on the houses that they have to build and pick the oranges. And those people are moving to other parts of the country. They're a little more welcoming to immigrant labor. And, across the board, that's why, we are essential to the future of this country in the present.
yeah, and also encouragement for more Spanish language products and services, right?
That's right.
A lot of Latinos are bilingual, right? And I enjoy media content in Spanish just as much as I do in English, even though I was born here and English is my first language. I'm looking at Netflix shows in Spanish. I'm watching Telemundo. I'm watching CNN en español. I'm looking at magazines in Spanish. I love radio stations. So there's this perception that Spanish language media is for people that don't speak English, when in fact, no, we just get to enjoy content.
The music,
right, in two languages.
Taylor Swift and Beyonce are on that Bad Bunny, and even Karol G have had Spanish language
And
music.
Shakira,
have had tours. Karol G's having a tour right now. It's not quite Taylor Swift, but it ain't far in terms of
it's
selling
one of the
out
highest grossing
huge
tours this summer.
football stadiums around the country. And a lot of those people are, like you said, people that speak English primarily, but love the culture and are connected to the music. And look, our show, Bomba Live. So.
Exactamente.
All right, Vanessa, as we wrap this up, I got some serious questions for you. Good transition. We're going to start the Wepa segment of Bomba Live. And this is where I'm going to ask my co-hosts and our guests a few critical Puerto Rican litmus test questions to see who keeps it real and what they think about these critical issues impacting Puerto Rican culture. So I got a couple questions here for you, Vanessa.
All right, rapid fire.
So the first one is, Pegao, or do we say no to Pegao?
No to Pegao. I don't like. My mom loves Pegao. I think it's because when we were growing up, she always took the Pegao. We couldn't have any. So
I'm with you. My wife loves Pegao. My mother loves Pegao. Our teeth don't love Pegao.
It's too crunchy.
It's too crunchy for me. And to me, it's like, isn't that the whole point of cooking? So it's cooked correctly.
I love some fluffy white rice.
Oh
or
my
fluffy
God.
yellow rice.
Well, we do it. Talk about cross-cultural. So I've gotten into this hobby of making Asian food. So what we do is when we make the fried rice, my wife makes it with the Spanish rice, and I do all the rest of it. So that Puerto Rican chicken fried rice is popping. I'm going to have to do a demonstration for you on the show, but
I'm into it.
It's a teamwork thing. Yeah, so I'm with you, no Pegao. So I want to hear what people say on it because I know there's a lot of Pegao fanatics out there. All right, Vanessa, we're going way back here. This is a decor question. What staple of Puerto Rican home decorations do you wish would come back in style? You have three choices. The door beads curtains, plastic covered couches, or my personal favorite, the ceramic animal statues.
This is easy. Ceramic animal
Oh
statue.
my God. Puerto Rican women in the 70s, 80s. My grandmother had a zoo of these ceramic animals in her house, the leopards, the huskies. What was your favorite?
The tiger.
The tiger. Yes.
I remember a tiger growing up. Like, I don't even know which family member's house it was, but I have very fond memories.
Like life size.
Oh, yeah.
Like these little figurines, fam. This
Yeah.
is like, you had to put this on the floor.
And people would paint them too. And sometimes the paint job was like not that great. The parrot, I've seen parrots.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. I was gonna bring that up. So you had a ceramic pole or a tree that looked like a tree, like or a bamboo, and then you had the parrot.
I know. I've seen all.
And God forbid you tilt it over and it breaks. Oh my God!
And
Well, I wouldn't talk to you for a month.
The cat. There's like a long
Yes.
cat one that was very that was white.
Yes. The white.
Everyone knows about this white cat. I'm like, I'm not crazy, right? Like, y'all remember a ceramic white cat?
My mother and her sisters, they all picked an animal that was their thing.
Mhm.
So my mother had like all these mouses, and my tia had rabbits, and so they were the smaller ones. But these things took up a tremendous amount of space in
And
this
a
little
lot
row
of
house
times
in
they're
the
still
hood.
in people's yards in Puerto Rico. Like,
Absolutely.
you see them like in the garden or in the Marquesina, and they've been there for who knows how long.
My grandmother, the Concepa Doña Lidia, she had this thing for Buddha, and she had ceramic Buddhas all over the place in her house. And so, I don't know, Ricky Martin, I don't know. It's like, I don't know the religious significance of it, but it was just like a thing. The beads, much respect to the beads, though. It was a vibe back in the day. The door beads.
Oh, 100%. Everybody watching can picture that home with the bees.
No doubt. You
It
felt
has
like you were walking into like
and it has a smell to
tarot
it, right?
card reading.
Right? Yeah. That
It was a little spiritual dimension to it. It was
there
cool.
is a smell that goes with those beads and the plastic covers on the furniture. Like, I don't know if it's like habichuelas cooking on the stove or something.
Yeah.
But you would walk into the house and it would smell like food.
When you stick to the furniture in the summer, it was no bueno. We're not gonna go there with the Elvis Velvet paintings. That was another one. We're going way back. That's 70.
man.
That was our little kid. We that's y'all can't handle all that. We're gonna get into that. Vanessa, a final thought here on this episode of Bomba Live.
Well, again, want to wish everybody happy Hispanic Heritage Month. It's never too late to learn about your culture, your history, and embrace it and love it as much as we do.
That's right. Thank you, Vanessa, for being a graver. Again, much respect and prayers and love for the Irizarry family. We're with you. We're going to continue to stay with you. And look out for Bomba Live. That's why you got to subscribe to Bomba Live on YouTube.